Wisconsin International Radio presents Madison Comedy Roundtable, a lively discussion with four local Madison comics on their thoughts on the 2016 election and the presidency of Donald J. Trump.
That's a solid introduction. Yeah. Hello, I'm Miles Kristen, the moderator, joined here today by
Anthony Syracuse,
Mark Roth,
Heather Lynn,
David Fisher, overeducated, underemployed.
Tangular table.
Madison Comedy
WRECKED.
It's the round. It's an edgy round table.
Volume
that's
1.
Straight table puts us all in a box. Why
The
are you
important
doing that?
issues, shapes.
Pluto is not a planet. So,
But it is round.
if it wants to be a candidate.
That's right. As long as Trump doesn't know about it.
So the election, 2016, were these the shittiest candidates ever?
Oh my God.
One of them, yeah.
Top 5. Top 5 shittiest candidates ever.
I think it's a travesty that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton. Absolutely.
I think it's a travesty we did not have a do-over button on the ballot. That was the.
That is something like an interesting issue, because recently someone has I read that the Supreme Court is responding to some sort of petition to nullify the effects of the 2016 election, which on the one hand seems like a good idea, but on the other hand I don't know if you can do that. I don't think there's any official mechanism to do that.
What if we put the Shopko acid on sale? Would that nullify it?
Solid in-joke there. But it seems like there should, if it's obvious, if there was an obviously corrupted election, a supervillain shows up, which kind of happened, and it's just points guns at everybody's heads and says, vote for me. It seems like there should be some way to say, okay, that one didn't count, but
that's in theory what the Electoral College is for. That's what they think it's in place for. But really what the Electoral College is a holdover from the slave days that it was able to protect all the people of the southern population with the slaveholders and stuff, and I mean she won the popular vote. We all know that she won the popular vote by however many, 2 million almost, and it's more than
the votes of people the president doesn't like.
Which would be the popular vote, right?
Huge if true.
Right.
I wrote a little thing about this. Trump didn't win. Hillary lost. We're becoming. Seriously, she lost it big time because if you look at from Romney to Trump,
God.
Trump did get 335,000 more votes than Romney did, but Hillary Clinton got 1.7 million less votes fewer votes than the last one, the last Obama election, 2012. So it's a tiny amount of people that went from Obama to Trump beat out all the people that just didn't do, that didn't do anything. It was more that Hillary didn't have the support. And Trump support wasn't people. That's why I hate the sentiment that people are oh, half the country's racist. I can't believe half the people are such crazy idiots.
Well,
and we're that's bullshit because 25% of the voting age population voted for Trump. 26 or whatever voted for Hillary. The other half.
Yeah.
I think that Hillary losing is proof that we have a sexist culture. Absolutely.
When you talk about how many fewer people voted for Clinton, you have to take into account all the voter suppression that happened in the past 4 years. There's
Didn't help, yeah.
In Wisconsin, here, she lost by 18,000 votes. 300,000 people were purged from the voting rolls based on the new voter ID laws.
True.
Oh, yeah.
And she still won the popular vote. That's the thing. Is that in these very small, little, tiny percentages of things that change in these very key areas, and now he's president. No one fucking thought he was gonna win, rather. No one thought
Yeah.
he had was one.
Like a handful of, worst case scenario people were out there.
Yeah.
Nice.
But even he didn't think he was gonna win. Remember the pictures of him at the White House when he's just like, oh god, oh boy.
I almost kind of feel like somebody.
There's how many people in this country?
Oh no! Jesus Christ! It almost seems like somebody, like the Clinton team, almost like it was acting like they thought they had paid Trump off, and almost like somebody forgot to deliver the check to pay Trump off. And they're like this wasn't supposed to happen. Do you think Bernie Sanders would have done better? Done better than Trump? Better in the general election than Hillary Clinton did?
Maybe. I mean, there was, polling from like a year earlier that said Bernie is, stands a better chance against Trump. There was polling that said that. That's why I voted for him in the primary. Now, there has never been a presidential campaign against a Democratic Socialist Jew. We have no idea what that would have looked like. Like, there was you can imagine it might have been brutal.
Would have been more entertaining.
Are you not entertained
I'm not
by what
entertained.
just fucking happened?
I am not entertained. I am not amused.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to think Bernie would have won, and the people that would say no, he wouldn't have are typically like the pardon me, like the hardline blue collar, not blue collar, the hardline like blue dog, blue blood Democrats, like the old money establishment Democrats that were like, well, these social policies aren't realistic, they won't work, and but I don't know, like 1.7 million less than.
Doesn't it bother you that Trump is so openly misogynistic against women, and we still, as a culture, are willing to accept that he can beat a woman? Like, isn't that something that is wrong?
I don't think we have to. I don't think saying we as a culture are okay with it is necessarily true. We are not okay. I'm not okay with it. Are you okay with it?
He won, but our parents apparently are. People who are older apparently are.
A small percentage of them. Like a tiny, because of the Electoral College and because of gerrymandering, voter suppression, and all this bullshit, a tiny amount of people were okay with it.
So you're saying a small percentage of the population got him to be president of the United States?
Yeah.
I think
Not tiny, but smaller than what you guys think. Small. It's not like 1 out of every 2 people is a fucking raging Nazi Trump fan or whatever.
there's sexism involved in this campaign on a number of levels, because I think a lot of the people who voted for fuckface did not vote because they were okay with sexual assault so much as they voted for him because they hated Hillary Clinton.
Because she was a woman.
Yeah.
There were reasons that people disliked her besides, there were reasons for people to dislike her that, had things to do with what she did as a politician, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Maybe, but I think she caught a lot of flack for those that a lot of other politicians didn't or wouldn't have for gendered reasons. Like, there's a lot of people who supported the Iraq War. It doesn't get thrown in their faces as much as it does her, I don't think.
True. She was running for president.
Well, a lot of people were running for president.
Do you think there's
I'm like 10 people in the past?
Do you think there's this
like major candidates?
this false notion that like, oh, he's so rich he can't be bought off?
I don't know if he's rich. Like, we know he has at least, we know he's at least $1.85 billion in debt. We don't know how much money he actually has because he won't release his tax returns.
Right.
His cabinet has the highest net worth of any.
Yeah.
Like by a lot. The last I was looking at. I would have to go back and look at it, but like the last couple ones were like the increments were not that much, and then this one was like.
So now, like, officially the 1% own our government.
Yeah.
Officially.
It's like, yes, signed, sealed, delivered, like, hello.
Like, we've elected the Hunger Games, basically.
Excellent.
So the two-party system, any thoughts?
I think it's not as distinct from the multi-party system as a lot of people think. because it's basically a question of, do you want two parties that have a lot of factions, or do you want a lot of tiny parties that have to assemble into broad coalitions? So like, if you look at other countries that have multi-party systems, it's not like they don't have a lot of the same problems that we do.
So if we had, for instance, third and fourth parties in the debate, would it make it harder for politicians to lie because, say, the truth is being supported by multiple parties?
Politicians are going to lie no matter
Yeah,
what.
that's
Yeah.
kind of a prerequisite, that they're gonna lie, or they can't be a politician.
But there's, various degrees of lying. Like, no, seriously. Like, a
So we're gonna
traditional
go with the
politician.
first degree lie as opposed to the third degree lie?
Well, a traditional politician will, exaggerate and sometimes misrepresent, will very rarely just come out and say something that is completely ridiculously untrue. Right now, we have a president who says things that are ridiculously untrue all the time. I think that's significantly worse than a normal politician.
I think
Yeah, well,
that this whole election was an indictment of the two-party system, and that the Hillary, who was apparently the most qualified candidate ever, the most slam dunk, obvious, easy candidate, lost it big time due to a corrupt bullshit system with the
Well, she lost the electoral college.
She lost
so
the electoral college, which is part of the two-party capitalist system.
It's in those two factors are independent of each other. We could have a two-party system with the electoral college. We could have the electoral college without the two-party system.
True, but what we have now is the electoral college and the two-party system. And that's all.
I
think
think
it
one
ties
thing
together.
that people need to realize too is that Democrats and Republicans, those are private entities outside of government. Like
Pretty much.
that's why when you look at the debate, one person's dressed as blue and the other person's dressed as red. Like, it's because there's a communal agreement among those people to create an image for everyone to align one or the other. It's like, it creates like a yes or no, like this person or this person. There's no middle ground for anyone to like jump on. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
But it's also, were you just
I'm
about-
done, yeah.
Okay. It also means that when people talk about the primary process, they really don't have anything to complain about. Like, since it is a private, organization, they could decide who their candidate is however they decide they want to.
But at the same
Like,
time,
if they decided to, throw darts at a paper, that's entirely within their rights.
Like, clearly there's a problem with the primary system because Donald Trump became the Republican nominee.
Is that a problem with the primary, or is it a problem with the voters? I think the voters were assholes, so.
but also there is
They
well,
voted for
no,
one of their own.
Well, so your issue is with Hillary Clinton, right? She's not a good candidate. The voters wanted Bernie Sanders to be
But
president.
way more of them voted for Clinton.
not so much when you think of the superdelegate system and all that.
And you think of
If you want
and
to,
you just think
well,
of the way
regardless
Take out the
regardless of,
superdelegates, she still won.
regardless of Bernie versus Hillary, I think blaming the voters is a really unhealthy thing to do. To be like, to say something like the voters are idiots, the voters did something wrong. We're being fucked right now, and you have to blame upwards. You have to what you do, like, you have to.
Why did you
They-
vote for? Who did you vote for?
Fucking, do you know who I voted for?
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't matter. I voted. I participated.
No,
in the
the
system.
problem is that there's two parties. That there's Hillary
Well, I
Clinton
agree
and
with that,
Donald
yeah.
Trump. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like you have
The
two
Democrats-
choices, and if you vote outside those choices, you're a loser.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah,
and
which
you're,
one
you're,
had-
you're,
And
you're ruining
you're
everything.
ruining the system.
Which one had faker hair?
Trump.
Yes. I guess
Hillary's hair
she
is
dyed it,
hair.
she said. Well, hell, I don't know. I mean, maybe it is a wig, but I mean, yeah, he does have faker hair.
Well,
But
you
she
know,
did say that she's been dyeing her hair for years.
Which is, who cares about that?
not so much the
I'm
dying
fine with
thing,
that.
that's maybe just proof of the fact that Donald Trump is not a millionaire or billionaire or what the hell ever, because why the hell would you look like that?
She
And
never
not
let her
fix
hair-
your and not,
Gay
you know,
people don't like him.
The further she moves up,
Well,
into
yeah,
the,
because he looks
the
like
further
shit.
she climbs up the ladder, she doesn't let her hair down like hardly ever anymore at all. It's never just like down. Anyway,
Okay.
my mom's a
Okay, well,
hairdresser, so I
all
pay
right.
attention.
Oh, okay, that's not what it is, all right.
Okay, so the Democrats, like you said, are
The whole bit about
pretty
here,
much a
edit
privately
that
controlled.
clip out.
Both.
They're
Democrats
pretty much
and
they're-
both parties are privately controlled entities.
They do not represent working class people, and
Well, then
they are
they-
not going to.
Well,
Should we
Democrat-
cut
yeah.
public funding then from them?
Should we what?
Because they currently get public funding.
But is that where most of their funding comes from?
No.
From the
No.
government?
No.
In fact, 80% of the campaign contributions from the financial, insurance, real estate, communications, electronics, healthcare, defense contributions went to Hillary, and 92% of corporate contributions went to Hillary Clinton during the election.
I'm gonna need some more whiskey.
No.
Just drinking it straight.
But at the end of the day, also, money doesn't matter. Because Donald Trump spent less money.
He
at
spent.
one-
That's a hilarious fact. She spent more than $1 billion.
Yeah, he spent
He
less
spent
money.
like 500 million. He
Yeah.
spent half as much money. How the hell is that possible? That he
One
spent?
thing, are you familiar with Cambridge Analytica?
Yes.
Okay. For people who aren't, should I go over that
Yes.
a little bit?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
For the people who
So-
aren't.
Yes.
There
British
is-
people. They're British.
So there's a group of supervillains. The Cambridge Analytica is this corporation that does psychometrics, which is basically scientific psychology.
Oh, God.
Based on your answers to some questions, they try to predict your response. And like over the past, however long they've been working at it, they've gotten pretty good at it because they have all this data from like Facebook that they can cull through to predict, to get a very good, profile of you. Here, just a quick anecdote, just like a sort of a side story. The guy sued Target because Target was sending his daughter pregnancy advertisements for stuff for cribs and stuff. But it turned out that his daughter was in fact pregnant, which means that the data mining that was employed by Target knew more about his daughter's uterus than he did.
Wow.
So Cambridge Analytica is one of those companies, and it's partly run by Steve Bannon, and it's funded by the Mercers, who are big Trump supporters. So they had access to all that data, and so they could track down individual voters, find out the one thing that pissed them off, immigrants, and just harp on that, so their dollars just went way farther than Clinton's.
So the people
All right.
that are supporting Trump not only know about Trump's grabbing pussy, but they also know the contents of our uterus? What
Yes,
the hell are
indeed.
you talking about?
The analytic, the hyper
That's
analytical,
scary shit.
the super data technocrat people blew it this election. They were all wrong. Like all those 5280 analytic people all had Clinton winning,
Well,
and they were dead
538
wrong.
538
Do you know what Steve Mercer-
said there was a 30% chance that fuckface would win, and if the weatherman says there's a 30% chance of rain and it rains, the weatherman wasn't wrong. He's giving you an estimate.
Well, I don't know. I think the data and analytical people are not seeing what's actually happening.
The pollsters suggested that Clinton would win by around 3 million with a margin of error of around 2%, and that's how she
kind of
won.
what happened. Yeah.
So the pollsters are essentially using the same dartboard as the meteorologists, is what you're telling me. It's just kind of,
Like,
yeah,
they're-
that looks right.
They're making an estimate of future events within a certain margin of error. What I think happened was a lot of journalists took Clinton has a 2/3 chance of winning and interpret that as being she's guaranteed to win, which is stupid.
Oh.
I think what really happened was the media wants people to feel like
Right.
they're right. Yes. They want
Thank you
people
for
to,
agreeing with me.
Yeah. The media wants people to feel like they're right. So they're going to report on the things that they believe should happen. Whereas opposed to the real world, it doesn't necessarily reflect what you think. Like, the vast majority of people who get upset about things, they're more upset about their projection of reality as opposed to what actually happens. Like, that's what makes you upset.
Mhm.
When something is completely opposed to what you expected. Like, that's...
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on
One thing, if you read Nate Silver, 538, one thing he was talking about in the run-up to the election is why did he give Fuckface a much higher, odds of winning than a lot of other people did, and that is like, if the polls are off in like one state, they're probably going to be off in another state, which is what happened a lot. Like throughout the Midwest, the polls undervalued Clinton in, Wisconsin and Michigan and so on. But at the same time, they also underguessed her results in a lot of, non-swing states. So she did better than expected in California, she did better than expected in Texas, but that didn't help her any.
I wrote down something that I was reading earlier today. Of the 700 counties that voted for Obama twice, 209 of them went to Trump in this election. That's almost a third of them. And then out of the 207 counties of those that voted for Obama just the one time, 194 of them went to Trump.
What state?
Just all counties, just of the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
I also am
Yeah,
interested to
counties?
see how many people.
There's by the way, I
I
got curious too. There's 3,144.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought
in
there's
America.
72 in Wisconsin. There's a lot of counties in
I would
Texas has
also-
like 250.
I would
There's
also
like
be-
99
I would
in
be interested-
Iowa for no reason.
I would be interested to see how many people in the electoral college are men.
no reason.
Like, how many?
Oh, a lot of them probably.
I fucking.
In
the vast
Wisconsin, it
majority
was
of-
like, I think 8 out of 10 or so. I wrote postcards to all of them.
What would you say are some of the biggest issues that caused Trump to win the election?
Voter suppression, the electoral college,
What do you mean by voters?
sexism, a lot of kind of bullshit moral equivalency that got sputtered out between people on the far left and the far right. Oh, these two people there, they're exactly the same kind of You're insane if you think that. I think those were the big ones. And the Cambridge Analytica thing.
So now to the post-election, the social justice warriors, as they've been called. What do you think about? And there's a lot of different people responding to Trump's election in different ways. Be it the anarchists who have lit things on fire, like out in Berkeley, or the Women's March and the pink hats. And your thoughts on some of the different responses to Trump's election.
I think it's really heartening to see this level of activation. Like the Tea Party after Obama was elected, it was a highly astroturf movement, but it was effective in cowing legislatures and doing stuff. This is something that's happened as like an actual legitimate grassroots movement, significantly larger in scope, I would say. Like the women's movement is the Women's March was around 10 times as large as any of the largest Tea Party rallies.
That is true. I mean,
It was worldwide too.
I would say I noticed a difference on the day of the inauguration versus the day after. On the day of the inauguration, there was a demonstration here in different cities. This one in Madison was put together by the Socialist Alternative, and it was very specific about a lot of issues like the pipeline in North Dakota and so forth. And the next day, the Women's March seemed a little bit more
Broad?
Well, no, a little bit more orientated
Did you just
towards.
call the Women's March abroad?
I'm sorry.
No, but there
Faux pas.
were issues brought up by the Socialist
I would-
Alternative on the day of the inauguration here that weren't being brought up at the next event the day after, on Saturday, the day after the inauguration. Like for instance, one thing I noticed is on Friday they were talking about the pipeline, but on Saturday there wasn't so much talked about. And then also Saturdays had, I want to say 7 or 8 different elected officials speak, and it was very centered around the electing Democrats.
I think that a little bit of that is due to the fact that the inauguration was Friday and the Women's March was Saturday. just more people have Saturday off. But also, it is kind of more broad, and we're laughing about that. But the Women's March was more just like it was more of just like
It's called
look,
the Women's March.
like it was like if you don't like what's going on, come outside with us. And it was a lot of the actual things that were planned had to be canceled because there was just too many people and they couldn't actually march. You know, in a lot of places.
I'm pretty
And I was at the inauguration day march here, and there was way less people. And
Way less.
But it was still like exciting and stuff. But like the next day one was more. And really, if you look back at any like large social movements, they really don't start to become serious and stuff like that until there's women at the forefront. Because when it's like the homemakers and children and like just regular everyday family people that are out there being like, we don't like this. Like that's when you know that the movement and the struggle has brought you.
Worth noting that the march we had here in Madison, in terms of the size of the march as a ratio of the size of the city, was probably about the largest one.
I saw you share that infographic about that. It was like something like 80. It was like 81% of Madison's like population was at the march. Where it's like there were bigger numbers wise in like
Los Angeles,
Chicago and New York and stuff, but like there was 250,000 people in Chicago, but Chicago has like 3 million people. Madison is like 250,000 people, and there was 100,000 people at that march. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, but however, I mean, there was larger marches in Madison during 2011, but I guess that kind of drew people from around the country to here.
Yeah, and there were people from
Yeah,
surrounding areas
there was
coming here.
people in Middle Eastern countries buying us pizzas and like, yeah.
Even Antarctica.
That's
That's true.
I think I remember seeing like stuff about the pipeline at the Women's March, but like it was such a broad thing. I don't think any one particular issue. There was, so many people showing up with, the stuff that's important to them. I don't think anything would have been. Uteruses were really big.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah, the abortion, gender, gay rights were like the themes they talked about. They mentioned, I think, climate change at one point.
science, reason. I think there was some like anti-racist stuff too.
I think it's important to have a lot of different things I mean, if something's going to be that large, you don't want to start being like, oh, well, your thing is not welcome here or whatever. Like I think
We want to be
we're
intersectional.
at the very we're at the very beginning of starting to realize that all of these things do interconnect and they do matter. Climate affects women, affects transgender, affects like
The economy, affects health.
housing and healthcare and stuff.
My friend and I
Like, look
had
at Flint.
my friend
That's
and I
it.
had a banner that read U.S. out of Iraq and Afghanistan, and a woman came up to us and she goes, "You guys look like a couple of assholes." And we're like, "What?" And she's like, "You look like a couple of assholes. This is a women's march." And we were like, "I think this issue affects the women of Afghanistan and Iraq." So maybe like there could have been a little bit more international sentiment, maybe. You know,
Yeah,
like a little.
And there was a lot of people. There was a lot of talk on the far left too after that happened of being like, oh yeah, but where were all you people when Obama was deporting people, or where were all you people when this was happening? And it's like, you guys, if people want to join the movement and start doing stuff, like just let them. Like we all started somewhere. You can't. That's like we all do comedy. That's like when a new person is at the open mic. You can't be like, oh, motherfucker, where were you when? They're here. Let them,
okay,
if they want to do stuff with us, let's let them.
But back to that social justice.
And that's what I would say to those ladies that said that.
Back to social justice warriors. There are some of them, like especially the college kids, kind of falling into this cliche of like they're kind of they feel like, oh, I learned this and my professor just told me this thing that's like now I'm gonna go out and I mean isn't there a little level of seniority like if somebody's never been politically active before maybe shouldn't they like kind of listen to those who are been involved before, kind of like, because when I've been involved in activism, it's like, I'm going to shut up and listen to the guy who's been protesting since the Vietnam War.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're young and they're stupid and they're learning, and that's the thing that happens. So.
And sometimes the youth can come in and change things.
But I mean, in order to have a successful movement...
Every time that's what happens.
Yeah.
The youth comes in and changes. That's exactly what happens. Every single time. Like...
Unchanging.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true.
What do you think of the slogan, "Not my president"?
I say it sarcastically a lot, especially.
Well, if
Because
he gets impeached, it'll be the truth. So
my thing is like, what people are calling him Trump, or people people on Twitter and stuff will write like TRU asterisk P, like I won't say his name or whatever. It's like
how
let's
I
just
call him
face it.
fuckface.
Yeah, like I noticed that too. I was gonna say that, like you were calling him fuckface instead of just saying Trump. It's like he is the president. Like he is your president. He's my president. He's your parents' president. He's the fucking president now. I mean, we have to start like dealing with that. It's one thing to resist it and to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go against everything he does, and like I'm gonna do everything I can against it. But like,
I mean,
he won, and that's what the system. That's what the system dealt us.
I mean, isn't the president kind of like a drunk boyfriend? Like he is your drunk boyfriend passed out on the floor. Like he is the guy who just pissed on your friends.
My drunk boyfriend would want to get birth control in the morning.
When
he doesn't.
I do have more respect for the people who refer to the previous president as Barack Hussein, all caps, Obama, or Odumba, or Obummer.
I'm gonna start calling him Donald Hussein Trump.
I just find it funny that all of our leaders had to say when we found out that Donald Trump was president, we all kind of went, what the fuck? And then everybody's going, well, we have to give him a chance to lead. It's like, no, we don't. He's 70 years old. He should already frickin' know how to lead. That's something you say for a toddler. Oh, we gotta give him a chance to behave himself. Yeah, okay, a 2-year-old, yes, but what?
The Democratic Party just spent an entire year telling us this guy's unfit to lead.
Yeah.
He's the worst monster ever. How, like, come on, vote for me. Then he wins, and they're like, you know what? Let's see what he does. We're gonna work with him.
Well,
It's not like the GOP gave Barack Obama a chance. They didn't.
Though, the first 2 years, I mean, he
when
had
the Democrats
he had the House.
That's true.
Well, yeah,
That's true.
So, like, the first 2 years, when he had the House and the Senate, he could have legalized marijuana. He could have done a lot of, like, amazing shit that he chose not to
He
do.
could have made anime mandatory. And
Maybe
he didn't.
so.
He didn't.
Make America anime again.
That's what it's really all about.
I can get behind that.
I remember watching the election. Maybe can you share when you found out that he was actually winning? See, for me, I've been so sick of watching an election night coverage, so I got done with work at like 6 o'clock. I went home. I didn't even watch any of the news. And then I got to the Brokaw with a bunch of my libertarian friends to watch Gary Johnson get his whole 3-4%, and walk in. And we're just like, oh, that's funny. He's winning. Like we didn't even think he was gonna win at any point in the night, And we're like, huh. And then you're just kind of like really confused. And then at one point around, I'm like, well, okay, she's gonna win California, and that's gonna. And then someone goes, no, she won California a long time ago. And then we're like, what the fuck is going on? And then when Ron Johnson had won, and I realized, like, wait a minute.
Ron Johnson won?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
When Feingold lost.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I think meant.
No, that Johnson. That would have been awesome, though. We've all been smoking pot and, cleaning our guns and stuff.
Dude, did you see when he was like...
He was a terrible candidate. I'm not going to deny that.
Did you see when he was on that show and they were like, someone was ribbing him for legalized marijuana, and he was like, they were like, they say that you can, sometimes within an hour of smoking marijuana, you can have a heart attack. And then he like pretended to have a heart attack on stage.
No, but
that was funny.
So when Feingold lost, and we realized, oh shit, that means Trump most likely won Wisconsin, which we got to a point where it was like literally once he won Wisconsin, it was like, okay, he literally has to win any state at this point, and he's elected president. And then that was only like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then at that point, we were just sitting around drinking whiskey, going like, what the fuck is this really happening? Like, because we were like, as third-party candidates, we kind of hated both of them somewhat, and so we were just like shocked, like, this is really happening? Like,
This is like
none of us expected this to happen.
NASCAR frickin' took over the.
Well, like NASCAR,
That's
like when NASCAR crashes into the,
I think also
mountains.
Everybody
least-
took
at
sharp left
At
turn.
least in NASCAR, you have to be upfront about who owns you.
But yeah, there you go. Oh, nice. I like it.
I'm pretty sure I had that day off. I was watching all day. I watched every fucking second of local news that I could. I was on Twitter. I was all over it. And I don't know when the exact moment when I realized that he was going to win, but it was more of just like a gradual thing where it was just like the hope and the despair just sort of leveling out. And my roommate went to a concert or some shit, and he's not very political at all, and he came home, and I was just pacing the floor, and I was just like, man, the whole fucking system's corrupt, man, it's all about. And he was like, oh, what happened? I was like, Trump's gonna win, dude. Trump, like Donald Trump, the like rapist billionaire, is gonna be the leader of the country. And he was like, oh, okay. But
I just remember sitting up till 3 o'clock in the morning going,
yeah, I was up all night.
I was like, this is a fucking joke. Because I've seen, like, you know, when we thought Al Gore was going to win, and then, like, at the very last moment, they're like, oh, no, it's actually, now it's Bush.
Well, there was the recount took again a couple days, didn't it? So
it's essentially like a month, the card battle.
I didn't even know.
And then 2004 with Kerry, we thought he was going to win, and then I think later in the night, it was like, no, Bush won, and then Kerry didn't give his concession speech till the next day. But,
there was... Are you guys familiar with how Al Franken won for the first time?
In Minnesota, no.
Yeah. That recount lasted well into the new year.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he didn't get sworn in until like March or something.
Wow. But when Trump won, and it was just still this I was just shocked. Like I keep thinking of that episode of South Park, the 9/11 episode, when they keep explaining 9/11 stuff to Kyle, and Kyle just keeps going, really? Really? But no, when he came out to the fucking theme song to Air Force One, the Harrison Ford movie, and that was the most ridiculous part, and it was like this really long, like they set up like in almost like a, auditorium of a hotel or something, like this really long walk he had to do to the whole song and everything.
I didn't watch, honestly, I have not watched like a second, well not a second, but I have barely watched any of his official statement shit ever since the election. I don't going, because he does that. He's purposely doing this thing where he's just saying stuff because it's the 24-hour news cycle, and everyone is going to chase what he said and be like, you're wrong because of this and yeah, everything he says is totally a complete made up. Well, it's just like he's just creating nonsense, but chasing after that, we already know that. Everything he says is bullshit, garbage, and
but all he has to do is say bullshit the next day, and then there's new bullshit. So you never stick on one solid piece of bullshit.
It just continues going. So I don't know
if you could say he's purposefully doing anything.
No,
I don't think
he has not read
it for sure. No. He knows that the whole news cycle is going to be about whatever he talks about.
Is he smart?
He definitely thinks that it's cool and good. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that. He's purposely been I'm gonna make up some dumb shit. He really does believe all that stuff he's saying, but he knows that it is just distracting us from letting him do whatever he wants.
He's probably an expert on what's been said on Fox News in the last 48 hours.
But I mean, is he actually an idiot, or is it an act? Is he possibly very intelligent and just playing us very, very well? Because to me,
I think he's an idiot that's playing other idiots.
That is possible.
And is in turn being played by people like Steve Bannon and Putin.
Yeah.
I don't think he's
Putin has
smart or talented enough to pretend to be that much of a frickin' idiot.
Have you seen his rendition of Green Acres from the Tonys or something from a few years ago? There's a video of him with the
overalls.
He's wearing overalls. It's him and Megan Mullally singing the theme song for Green Acres.
Ron Swanson's wife.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
Why?
Yeah, he was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When you go back and watch all these old clips of him, you're like, God, these poor people watching this didn't know he was going to become the president.
If Trump was...
He was on Fresh Prince
It's like when you see Charles Manson hanging out with the Beach Boys.
At least Charles Manson. I would rather have Charles Manson as president.
I would too.
Oh my God.
Charles Manson would probably be less likely to start.
He would definitely not be worried about leaving.
Here's the thing.
Oh yeah, Mark hasn't said anything.
No, and this is... Trump clearly not racist. He's clearly not racist.
Oh.
Clearly not racist. No, he's clearly not racist.
Oh.
What are the facts that he is racist?
And did you see that interview with him with I think it was Jake Tapper, where he was like that judge that was trying to overturn something he was doing was of Latin descent, and he was like I don't want this guy in my case. It was from one of his. It was getting sued for some real estate
Impartial
shit.
because
He was like, I don't want this guy to be my judge because he's Latin. And he was like, do you think that because of his
couldn't
race?
that could also be said that he's going against someone who the rest of the vast majority of the people in our country who have said he's racist. If a bunch of people say he's racist and then he goes against a Mexican judge who also, believes all this other shit that everyone else has been fucking
That he wants to build a wall and deport all undocumented immigrants, that's not like a made-up conspiracy. He wants to do all those things.
But that doesn't mean he's racist. That doesn't mean he's racist.
When he thinks that a judge is going to not be able to do his job because of his race, that makes him a racist.
What?
Repeat that.
Repeat that. What did you say?
If you think, look, so he didn't think, he wanted another case because the judge was Mexican or Latin or something, just strictly because of that. If he doesn't think that judge can give him a fair case solely because of his race, that makes him a racist.
What about discriminating against black people in housing since the 1970s?
That's true. He settled out of court because they purposely didn't.
But also,
black
fucking,
people.
he built his empire on desegregating nightclubs. The vast majority, he made money off of desegregating nightclubs, off of allowing black people to enter into nightclubs so he can make money.
Oh, praise his name. He let black people into his clubs.
Oh, God.
By the grace of his good
But I was
name
going to say
and his
earlier about Trump possibly not being as dumb as we might think he is, Trump's election reminds me of an episode of Columbo. Where Columbo was he would act like this dim-witted detective, and at the very end he would crack the case. And I kind of feel like Trump did that just a little bit, oh yeah, I'm not gonna win, and then won.
It reminds me more of the episode of The Simpsons where Homer runs for sanitation commissioner.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Where Steve Martin is they offer Steve Martin his job back, and he comes up and he's just yeah, it's such a pleasure to watch you all in your own misery. Goodbye, and then walks away.
I mean, he's racist.
I don't think he is.
I mean,
You don't think he's a tiny little bit racist? A little bit.
No more than any other person in the entire world. No more than any other person. What is your definition of racism?
My definition of racism is that thinking that someone has an ability less just because of their race.
I was having this debate with someone the other day, and we were saying that it might be that Trump is racist not against every group of people, just certain groups of people.
That would be a racist.
That's a racist. It doesn't
Well, no, what I'm saying is he might not.
He's
He's a
selectively
selective
racist.
racist.
If
no,
you hate
isn't it?
every group of people, you're not a racist, you're an asshole.
If you only hate Mexicans, that's not really racist.
No, he's still a racist.
Oh
He
my
just
God.
doesn't have racist actions against each particular group. He's still a racist. It's just maybe his actions are only racist
Okay,
against
so-
certain particular groups. Not that it's any
I
better
think
or worse.
it is true.
worse.
Where you're coming
Okay.
from is kind of that everyone views things through a racial lens, and all of us do carry racial stereotypes with us, and that's true. We all all of us deal with that on different
Right.
degrees. But when you say something like, I don't think Donald Trump's racist.
I think
for the
he's,
record, I
To
absolutely
what degree? To what degree?
I think it's to a higher degree than you think.
about as
Wow.
racist as a typical 70-year-old who watches Fox News.
Yeah, a 70-year-old
exactly.
billionaire, yeah.
Well,
Which is
just-
pretty fucking racist.
Exactly.
What I don't understand is how is it that he can be, we could all probably agree that Donald Trump is somewhat of a conspiracy theorist, right? So he's a
Oh,
conspiracy
sure.
theorist on
Yeah,
so many
yeah,
different
yeah.
things.
Fake news.
Unless it
So-
affects him.
But when it if he's so much of a conspiracy theorist, he goes along with all this stuff. Even there's this stuff now coming out about him saying stuff about 9/11 and bombs in the buildings, but then he still goes along with the total narrative that it was this group of Muslims that we didn't see coming, that we didn't know about, that and then
There are clearly, that's the thing though, there are clearly people in the world who want to destroy America.
Of
Clearly.
course, yeah.
Clearly people, based on the fact that we've gone to other
One of the
exactly. Based on the fact that we've gone to other countries and fucking devastated their entire country, bombed the shit out of everything that they've ever owned, killed their children, killed their women. Yes, absolutely. And they're upset about that. So like, we need to deal with that. We need to deal with the fact that we live in a culture that gains from the fact that we've destroyed the rest of the world.
It's called capitalism.
We've gone, no, well, it's not called capitalism, it's called America. It's called the world that we live in. We live in a world that has gone to the rest of the world and been like, hey, you know what? I want cheap coffee. I want cheap clothes. I want cheap shoes. I want cheap everything. And we've gone to every other country and been like, fuck you, how do we get to the cheapest shit in the world? And that's what we want, so we're gonna bomb the fuck out of you, and fuck you for going against America, man. Like, that's the fucking problem, that we are okay with destroying the rest of the world so that we can gain, so that we can get a little bit more money. We can get a little bit more of what we want. And everyone else was gonna, dude, it's fucked up. We're gonna completely deny that happens. The rest of us are gonna completely be like, oh, we don't give a shit about that, like, cause you're just gonna fucking gloss over that shit and completely deny that no,
I know
it's America.
I am.
It's not
Here is why
capitalism.
everything that guy just said is wrong. For starters, yes, we have a lot of exploitative, like, the countries where we get our super cheap shit from are not the countries we bomb. We get our super cheap clothes from, like, Bangladesh. We get our super cheap shit from China. We didn't bomb
we
any
love
of
the
them.
shit out of Saudi Arabia because they give us cheap as fuck oil. But
Yeah.
they suppress the shit out of the rest of their population.
Oh, yeah.
So that we can fucking get our cheap ass oil. We
Most-
don't give a shit what they do to those people.
We actually export more oil than we import at this point.
I don't believe that. I don't believe What? Where do we get our oil from?
All the
The
fucking
Dakota Access Pipeline.
the Dakota Access Pipeline, Oklahoma.
Oh, that's stupid
Fracking.
of us. We should be saving that and fucking not giving it to
We
the
should
rest
not
of the
be using it anymore. That's what it is.
And
I think
on the
go
other,
ahead.
and the other thing, the countries that we do bomb, a lot of the places we bomb are places we like. Even if you accept the very morally dubious premise that it's okay to bomb a place for your own economic gain, there's no point in a lot of the places we do bomb. Like the whole fucking Iraq war, there's not like a very compelling economic need for that to have happened. We just did it because we're fucking assholes, and
we're mad about 9/11.
We're mad at, like,
That's what it
but
was.
the plan to fuck up Iraq predated 9/11.
Yeah.
There
True.
was the American Enterprise Institute came along and said, if we fucked up Iraq, that would fuck up the whole region. We should do that.
And the Project for a New American Century.
The Project for a New American Century, indeed.
What's
Jeb
that?
Bush.
What's that?
Jeb Bush, Paul Wolfowitz, Dick Cheney,
The-
Richard Pearl, all the big neocons got
Exactly.
together in the end of the 1990s and was like, hey,
How
remember
are-
the Cold War? Let's redo that thing. And
The basic idea is, how do we do 1984 except with only one country? How do we have just us as a hyperpower that can never be defeated forever?
I think you're lying to yourself if you don't think that all of these things are inherently built into capitalism. If you
I'll
don't think,
lie to
if you
myself.
don't think that what?
Because there are non-capitalist countries that have a lot of these same problems.
But I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
Like what? What do you mean?
I mean, you look at
Like-
Russia over the last 100 years, they weren't capitalist at times, but
I mean, since they've been pretty much capitalist since like the 50s or 60s.
Oh, what? Shut the fuck up. The Cold War was past the 50s and 60s.
I know the Cold War was past the 50s and 60s,
I
but
don't
like what Russia was doing, they weren't totally non-capitalist. They were still participating in the capitalist economy and still like.
I completely believe that you should be able to be capitalist. Like, you can be capitalist and you can be socialist. Like, but there's certain parts of the world where one or the other will work based on your culture, based on like what you believe in. Maybe you should be socialist and maybe you should be capitalist based on. and the social and the structure we currently live in America, we have decided that it's a capitalist society.
And it's not working.
In what way? We fucking dominate the shit out of everybody.
You just went all about how talking about how we go and bomb other countries and ruin, totally destabilize whole entire regions of the world just to keep our little. But it's not.
Well.
It's not.
So you should.
You're okay with like 1% of the country of America having all this wealth at the expense of the rest of the population of America and the entire whole population of these regions that we're bombing the shit out of. Those things are inherently built into capitalism. Capitalism is based on.
In what way?
Because it is based on getting everything to have a little bit of profit or maximize as much as you can, and it is about going to anywhere you can to suck the most out of the weakest people to get the most to the top.
I think there's a lot of things that are problems that we are experiencing with capitalism that are not necessarily inherent to capitalism. That, like, for instance, inequality, there's a lot of like basic policy stuff that could really, that could make a massive difference that we're not doing because we are, culturally speaking, assholes. Like,
Exactly.
Take a look at like fucking the estate tax. We pretty much only tax we try to not have basically an estate tax at all. Is this strong impetus? Because they call it the death tax, and we're like, you're being taxed. No, we're not taxing you twice. We're taxing your shitty kids once. The estate tax to me is like the perfect tax because like it's completely unearned income for the person who's receiving it, and it's the one step you can do to prevent entrenched capitalist power structures.
So
like
you're
families like the Waltons.
To defend your defense of bombing,
They're first generation
destabilizing entire regions,
and they're self-made.
your defense of destabilizing entire regions of the whole
I'm
world
not-
is the
I
estate
am not-
tax. That's
no.
why it's okay to totally ruin the economies of
That's Apple.
But
the
I
livelihood of a whole region.
I have never defended doing any of that. I just, like I said, that I was the one who was saying a second ago that it's absolutely pointless that we're bombing all these other places.
Yeah.
I don't think it's pointless. I think it's beneficial to all of us, and we need to realize that.
No. What do you think is the best country to bomb? What do you what
None of
what
them.
what
We
country
shouldn't
what
bomb
bomb
any
will
country.
make me the most
We
money?
shouldn't bomb any
That's what I
country.
want, baby. Come on, Papa needs
We
a new pair of shoes.
No. We
What
shouldn't
country
bomb
should I bomb?
any country. We shouldn't bomb any country. But the fact of the matter is that all of us profit off of the rest of us bombing the shit out of the rest of the world.
And that sucks. So why would you want to continue?
But it's not a completely.
I think there were.
I would argue that it's not necessarily as much of a capitalist society that we think we live in because, for instance, the bailouts wouldn't have, if we lived in an actual capitalist society, the bailouts would not have happened. Or the fact that there's monopolies, and not that I'm advocating for free market as if I think the free market is the answer for everything, but I'm just saying that we blame capitalism, but that maybe we're not actually as capitalist of a country as we claim to be. I mean, there are monopolies running this shit.
There's market, I think markets do a good job as long as there's certain prerequisite conditions set up for them. Like, for market to work, there has to be, for instance, parity between buying power and selling power. If there's a monopoly, there is not parity between buying and selling power, and so there's exploitation. So one thing the government can do is it can try to intervene to make sure there's more, in industries where there's for instance, Walmart, where it's going to be probably the only employer in an entire community, the government can help make sure that there's opportunities for unions to form to help make sure the labor market has parity between the buying power and the selling power.
The
I love how you're filling the flask beneath as if like,
joke that we're like not drinking.
You've killed that thing of whatever that is.
Okay, the fourth wall has been broken, folks. We're drinking whiskey. We're drinking a lot of Canadian.
R&R Reserve. R&R Reserve.
This is Crown Royal, is what was in here. Anyway,
Dear Canada, when our
Clobber and Black Cherry, by the way.
dear Canada,
And
when
I am
our
on pure air.
when our economy crashes, bring us whiskey. I don't know what we'll have to give the Canadians.
go Rough Riders.
Oh,
The Saskatchewan Rough Riders, my favorite CFL team. Now,
that was actually
Oh, I
my-
thought you were talking about those condoms you get when you put the quarter in.
those two things may be related.
You should do stand-up. You're
I
very
thought
funny.
they were. I thought. I
Miles
thought
is
they
very funny.
Come to
Miles
the
is
Argus.
Very funny.
I
The
think-
Argus every Monday at 9. Not this Monday though. There's no Argus Mike this Monday at 9.
Miles
But
is
okay,
very
hold on though.
Wait.
The reason I got so worked up a minute ago is because you said that
Capitalism?
the bailouts are an example of why we're not a capitalist society. When the bailouts,
Which is fuck. Yeah.
I think-
I agree with you.
I
on that.
think the bailouts is like my number one example of
Yeah.
the worst
We
parts of
bailed the
capitalism.
fuck out of all
Because
the bankers, man.
The taxpayers paid for all of the mistakes of the financial and banking
But that's
industry.
not
And it's
supposed
not-
to happen in a capitalist society.
But it did!
Because
Oops!
the-
Oh well!
because-
Oh no!
because
Well,
industries
capitalist
are
society is
supposed to-
designed to have a crisis there every few years. Whenever capitalism goes into crisis, that's what it was, right? The financial bailout was a crisis. Oh no, we lost all this money. All this money is gone. We fucked up because we accidentally gave all these loans to people that don't have money. And now all of us, the financial bank people, oh no, we don't have any, we lost all this money that we loaned people that didn't exist in the first place. Oh
It's-
no.
like-
Bail us out, please. So they took all of the money that we really actually did earn for real with real work. They took that and gave it to the people that loaned out money for not doing any work. They were just these weird third-party people taking wealth from another source and putting it in
For the
another source.
record-
Those people made all the mistakes and were super in debt. And we paid their debt with our actual labor that we did with our real hands
I
and
also
hammers
want
and nails.
to say that those people who profit, the very rich are so, they live such great lives because the rest of us have
Taxes.
agreed to that model. The rest of us have said, yes, it's okay that you can live your life as the greatest people in the world because you have a shit ton of digits.
The
You have
top
a
1%
shit ton
of the top one. This
Listen.
is helping Mark. The top 1% of households in 2010 had 3 times more wealth than the bottom 80%, and 9.5 times more financial wealth, which is more outside of their house.
Wait,
wealth.
David?
Go on.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the financial crisis in this particular instance happened not just because people were giving out loans, it's because they were taking the debt of those loans and misrepresenting the value of it and bundling it and passing it on and deliberately defrauding the people they were selling it to. That's an actual crime that hasn't really been addressed. And if we were a society that, for instance, did address that crime, that would be a significant improvement, I think.
But we're not.
So we all agree that a lot of
B-
those bankers should have gone to jail.
Oh,
Yes.
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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. You fucked up. You made a bad decision, and because of that bad decision, you should go to jail. Like
And-
that. Yes. Absolutely.
And in regards to your point about the bailouts being an instance of socialism, they're not really. It's more if it was real
I didn't say they were an
socialism
instance of social.
Here-
of non-capitalism.
I
you
should
were
also
saying.
say that.
No.
I
I said it was a prime example of capitalism.
You said.
I said
Okay.
that
Okay.
that would be
Right.
an example of capitalism.
Yes. Okay.
And I was talking to this guy because you have a communist beard.
Well, but I want to get to the war on drugs in a minute.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
But first, let's touch on real quickly safe spaces. The college safe spaces, especially the idea that we shouldn't let certain speakers speak, be it Richard Spencer, Milo or even Ben Shapiro. There was that incident recently here
What's a safe space?
What is a safe space?
Isn't that like Google?
We first
Remember freeze
No,
tag?
it does.
Remember freeze tag?
Safe space
You
is
guys
a
are millennials,
magical.
You don't go outside and play.
Yeah.
You remember freeze tag?
We
That's
had-
cool, and it's
I didn't call it
You
It's
can't
magic.
get touched.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a
yeah,
magic.
what's a safe
This
space?
was a base.
Someone define
It's
safe space.
cool. We called it cool.
I need a definition of safe space before I can argue against.
Okay, safe space is like safe space is this imaginary idea where we are
That's so
able
very
to.
capitalistic of you, Mike.
We can say you're not allowed to say certain things in this area, and then they're just magically not going to be said. It's kind of like a gun-free zone, except with words.
It's kind of like an area where if Trump went in and he'd lose his motherfucking mind because.
That was fucking
He
hilarious.
lost
when-
his mind years ago.
No, when
Right.
he went to the theater, or no, there was Pence went to the theater,
Pence went to
and
the
the
theater
actors-
and
the
actors
actors
from
gave-
Hamilton booed him.
gave him shit.
So
They were
Spence
very
should have had a
polite.
safe space
They were
there.
very polite.
We
Yeah,
need to
they
make
said,
sense.
"Hey,
Really safe.
Yeah.
I would
Safe,
respect you as the
Pence needs
vice
to be
president,
safe in that
but we
situation.
we disagree strongly with how this, and we hope that you do this instead.
And so Trump was expecting the theater to be a safe space for Pence.
But,
So if we
Theaters have
here's
historically
my
not been
only
kind
issue.
to the executive
my
branch.
only issue,
Yeah,
I'm coming off as an incredible
Yeah,
hypocrite
yeah.
right now. I understand that, but safe spaces are retarded. That is the dumbest thing you can create for a person. No, it's society. Like if you enter into a space that you don't, okay.
Well, like for instance, there was that incident last year, maybe it was 2 years ago now, where the students were having a protest in the middle of what was like almost the courtyard or whatever of the university, like the middle area between all the buildings. And then some journalists came up and were filming it, and the meeting, I want to say she was like the communications professor was like threatening to get security to remove the guy for filming something that was going on in public, and they were like, "This is a safe space. You're not allowed to film here,"
Yeah.
and which was a terribly stupid idea.
Well, there's a lot of colleges who say that minorities need a safe split, a safe split,
Or
a safe place.
Pretty stupid, right?
A safe place.
like
Safe
a,
place. There's a
like a
safe
harassment-free
place.
zone.
I'm very drunk right now. You can also predicate everything that I've said on. I'm very drunk right now.
Isn't that kind of like?
Well, here's
not
the thing.
So much
It's like
making us.
there's a lot of safe places in colleges who are they're only for minorities, which is kind of fucked up. Like it. No, here's the thing. It's like Martin Luther King wanted everyone to be critiqued on the content of their character, not on the skin, like not on their skin.
Color of their skin.
Not on
Right.
the color of
And
their skin.
if the
He
content
also
of their
said
character,
the biggest obstacle to progress was moderate white people.
he also said that the language of the unheard, is a riot.
He also did finish half of that bottle of whiskey.
So, can I say my piece on
Yes.
safe spaces? Like, here's an example of, there is a battered women's shelter next to the church that I grew up in, that I went to when I was growing up. And men are not allowed in there.
Okay.
Would you say that doesn't make sense?
No, I mean, I get it.
That
Okay.
totally makes sense.
So,
But
Okay.
I will retort with that.
when I'm
in
done.
that,
Hold on. Go on.
So, like, if you want to retort to that, fine. But, like, I think it's a super non-issue. Like, it's something that's being, screamed every day at us from the people we like least on the internet. Oh, these safe spaces. Oh, these snowflakes. Oh, these wimpy, easily offended. We hear this complaint over and over. Like, even if you think the idea of safe spaces is stupid, it's such a tiny thing, who cares?
But like, okay, for instance, Ben Shapiro came here to the university,
Mm-hmm.
and he is a very controversial, conservative author,
Mm-hmm.
and he's Jewish, and one of the protesters literally pulled a swastika out at him and told him, "You should be wearing this." At which point he then leaned down and pointed to his yarmulke, and he said, I believe it was something to the effect of, "They weren't too kind to my people."
Mhm.
I mean, just the whole.
That sounds like the opposite of safe. That sounds like very vigorous debate.
I mean, just this idea of like, we don't want a conservative speaker here at all, so we're gonna like shut them down from speaking at all. Can't that have the opposite effect that where they're maybe if an abortion rights speaker or a pro-gay rights speaker comes, then that conservatives and so forth could be stopping them from speaking. Like, where
Go ahead.
I feel like
Then go ahead and do it.
Wait.
So
So to talk about what you were saying. So you're talking. Okay. So I trained jujitsu for a while, for 2 years.
He was ripped.
I was ripped. It did well for my body. So the thing was, when I was training jujitsu, we had women who were rape victims join the group. Okay, so the thing, and in this world, you're choking each other, breaking each other's arms. It comes to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done. But they gained so much from being able to learn how to tell someone to stop, and how to tell them how to show them how they can control the situation, and be like, hey, what you're doing, you need to stop this.
Mark,
They learn so much
so.
from that
Would you
situation.
suggest they
So
should
they're-
never not be in a jujitsu class?
I would argue
their
that
whole life
that
should
your
be
class,
a jujitsu class.
I would argue that class was a safe space. You're like what you're talking about is a safe space where they might be like, hey, I'm a rape victim. Let me be able to tap out whenever I want.
In an individual situation, you need to be able to go to that place. You need to be able to get to a point where someone says, okay, this is enough, and then for them to say no. For them to say no, and for you to stop. There needs to be a spot where people... And
A
it's not
safe space, if you will.
I know that this.
But it's not. But it's not, because there are certain situations in that environment where someone can break your arm, where someone can choke you out to unconsciousness. Like,
Not
that
without your
needs
permission.
to exist for you to be able to say no. Like, this
That's what a
environment.
safe space is. You're describing a safe space. Like, I
No,
know.
it's not. I'm not.
Wait,
I'm not.
Heather-
I'm not, because
Heather had a
if
point.
most safe spaces you walk into, it's a place where no one else can talk horrible things about you, where no one else can say a bad thing that would hurt your feelings, where no one else can be like, hey, you said this horrible thing, where no one else can physically hurt you. That doesn't exist in these safe spaces that we're creating. We need to create a space for people where they're fucking bombarded with all this awful shit, and they can say no.
So we can confront it.
So we can confront it. Yes.
Yeah.
So that, and then you have a person who's like, oh, okay, you know what? Under these laws that we've created, under these stipulations that we've created, I can go, oh, I'm a person, you want to quit, and we're done. Like, that needs to exist, and if you're gonna create, a space where that stuff can't exist, where we can't go to that space and you can't say no, then that's fucked up. Then we lose that. Then we lose that position.
So
where
Mark
we
has
can-
taken the position of mandatory harassment zones for everyone. What do you
Wait,
mean?
But
we
mandatory
gotta-
harassment
we
zones
gotta
where
move
you
on.
can say no.
Well,
Yeah, well, yeah, she had a point.
well, and I don't know how valid this is gonna be, but this is what sticks in my head, where this all happened. Do you remember when we were kids and we're out on the playground and we're all out there together, you're out on the playground, remember when you fell off the equipment and there used to be gravel there, that you fell into gravel? So, and now they changed it to wood chips, which I don't understand how that hurts less, but now it's like tires.
Yep.
Okay,
Chopped up
so
tires.
you fall off of the equipment now. Children fall off the equipment now. They land basically into a bunch of chopped up tires, which is nice and soft. And to me, you don't learn how to not fall off the goddamn shit. Whereas if you were gonna fall into a pit of gravel, you learn once it's gonna hurt. So you learn how to
I think people know
how to
that
work
falling
their
is
butt.
bad.
But
Are
what I'm
perfectly
saying here,
okay with. I am perfectly okay with them learning that falling hurts without children being permanently injured.
Okay.
well, it didn't need to be.
I will say
but wouldn't you say though, in a safe space, if you are, I can kind of see a little bit of Mark's point, whereas if you're, not so much that you need to have a whole bombardment by harassment zone.
No, but you
But
need to
to
go to a
completely completely pull people out
So-
of that and just go, oh, you're coddling and going, you can't be around anything that's ever gonna hurt you. You're not gonna grow as a person. I'm not saying you should be completely harassed all the time,
So
but you do
Absolutely,
need to be
absolutely.
able to work in society, and unfortunately there are people that are going to make fun of you, there are people that are going to do this kind of shit, but to be able to come through and say, no, I have enough self-confidence to go, I know who I am, and if you want to be an asshole, you go ahead and do that, but you're doing that there, I'm doing my thing, and that's the way it is.
I'm gonna sneak to the bathroom real quick.
Okay.
So while he's sneaking, I'm going to tell you why the thing he just said is stupid again.
I'll go.
Which is that even
Good.
like
All right.
I'm not arguing against a mandatory harassment zone, because having a mandatory harassment zone doesn't mean you can't also have a safe space. We could have both, and people can just go to them if they want to.
So, but one here, quick question then. Okay, so in a non-safe space zone where anything can be talked about, anything can be debated,
Mhm.
that does help us to call out the assholes and the racists, right?
All right, yeah.
Like,
Depends.
yeah,
Because historically, a lot of the that's basically what 4chan is. It's just a place where people can say literally whatever they want, which means it's nominally a pro-Nazi
without
place.
Without any like anything happening to them,
Mhm.
without anything going wrong based on what they say.
Mhm.
Like
But-
4chan is a safe place, is a safe space
For racists.
for racists and pedophiles and
That's who you
fucking
need to protect.
rapists and horrible people.
Mhm.
Like,
Which means it's effectively not a safe space for people who
Is
those
4chan like, I've never seen it, but is it similar to Reddit?
no.
It's worse.
Well, it's
It's-
like Reddit without like
Reddit on-
moderators.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Reddit without people who are like, that's fucked up. Like,
Oh wait, so 4chan is the one without moderators.
yeah. You can post anything and it just disappears. Like, it's this place on the internet. Yeah, 4chan.
How does it disappear?
Well, it just gets deleted. 4chan is a safe place for everyone.
But it is-
4chan is a place where like, oh, I can post whatever I want and like put whatever I want, and if someone disagrees with it, it's just gonna get deleted and no one else.
It automatically gets deleted every so often?
Yeah. They won't delete things like over time. Like it all gets deleted after a while, but it's this place where you can put whatever you want out there, and no one else will say anything about it. That like they don't get a chance. They don't get a chance to disagree with you. It just gets deleted and it's gone. But like, yeah, it's fucked up. 4chan's fucked up. There's people who have been there's people on 4chan who have posted, I've murdered someone, and they posted pictures of people, and they posted pictures of the dead body. They killed somebody, and like
So wait, I'm guessing this like
They-
is it all
it's
anonymous? Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
is,
completely
it is.
anonymous.
It's
like everybody
completely
uses
anonymous.
fake names and such.
Yeah, I think you
Well,
just
it's
get like
just
a number.
You get a number, and it says this number said this thing, and they fucking killed somebody.
So it's like a 1990s chat room,
Mhm.
basically.
I guess, yeah. In some
Wow.
prospect.
All right, Anthony's gonna jump back in here. All right, then we'll get to the next issue.
The fact that Anthony has to come and go by disappearing and reappearing from under the table makes me feel like Anthony is actually a Muppet. Like he can't stand up and walk because he
We're
doesn't
talking about-
actually have legs.
We're talking about safe places. Safe places.
Well, now
Mhm.
we're on to
I don't have much to say.
We're on
about safe
to
spaces.
our last issue tonight: the war on drugs.
Okay, I'll start this off. The war on drugs is just a way for the government to make more money. In 2012 alone, the Justice Department made $4.2 billion from civil forfeiture alone. Which civil forfeiture, if you don't know, for viewers at home, is just when
Civil asset forfeiture.
If it's civil asset forfeiture, if you're even considered involved in a crime, let alone convicted of one or even accused of one, they can just take stuff you own if they think it's related to a crime at all.
Yeah, that's quite good.
So
And they don't have
$4.2
to
billion
prove it.
in 2012, and that was under Obama, who was good.
Liberal.
Yeah. Who is?
If they think you're, that's what so far shows. The drug cartel industry rakes in billions of dollars a year, so the drugs aren't going anywhere. So when police departments are like, oh, there's all these drugs. There's so many drugs everywhere. You guys got to give us money so we can help, cut down on all this drug use. So the taxpayers just shower them with money, and they get a bunch of military equipment. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Should we help people that actually have substance abuse problems get help? Yes. But that's not what the war on drugs seeks to do. It wants to throw anybody suspected of being in any direct contact with drugs into jail and take all of their stuff and assets. Civil forfeiture. Why do you think the White House is hinting at starting to ramp up drug law enforcement in states that have already legalized marijuana? There's a bunch of sweet revenue that they're losing out on. I don't know if you guys saw, but Sean Spicer, who, by the way, the name Sean Spicer sounds like the guy who was the DJ turntablist for 311. Apparently wants to start ramping up drug law enforcement in states that have already legalized marijuana, states like Washington and California and Colorado, my native home state. I can give some insight into living in a state that has actually legalized marijuana, living in a major metropolitan area where they have legalized marijuana in Denver. I gotta say, I lived in Denver for a while after they legalized pot, and the problem people have with it is that it does invite a bunch of people started moving there to get weed. But that's gonna get cut down on when more states. You'd think more states would start doing it under Trump. Maybe we'll see, but it has also brought in so much revenue for the state.
Well, it definitely
money's
shows.
so good. Money
shows
is the
that-
best thing. Says the socialist. Says
I had this
fucking
conversation with,
money is amazing.
I had this conversation just the other day with a conservative I know who actually, he was very anti-Trump. He's a conservative who was very anti-Trump, but then eventually when Trump became the candidate, he supported Trump. But he even agreed with me that that this is a states' rights issue. So clearly,
Nothing is a states' rights issue.
well, if you ask,
People say that when they know they can't get the votes at the federal level.
State, people, who wanted things to go to states' rights? Slavery advocates. You know what Republicans and Democrats were saying in 1840? Oh, slavery, let's leave it up to the states. Basically, when you start saying, let's leave things up to the states, that means that you don't really care about it at a federal level. And we saw that for 8 years under Obama, after a few states that legalized marijuana. They were like, people were like, oh, it's federally illegal, they're gonna come crack down on it. But the federal government was like, we don't really care. We'll let you guys do that. And with this trans bathroom rights thing that we've been seeing lately, is that they're like, yeah, we want, if states want to start, cutting down.
But
on
I
these,
also think that Trump saying that, or him saying that.
it's not the worst thing ever. It's just
no. He's putting it up to the state to dictate whether or not they want.
Because he doesn't have the votes to make it.
Oh, shut up. He's putting it up to the people who are in that area to be like, oh, we don't want men who are confused about their sexuality or their gender to be going into other gender okay areas.
Let's keep it on the war on drugs topic. I know that I
we
brought
can
that
just do
topic in.
all
there,
of
but-
number 2 can be gender and bathrooms.
Well,
No pun intended.
Stick with what do you like? You were making fun of me about the money revenue thing. Like, do you think it's bad that regular working class citizens are getting money for services that they need because of recreational marijuana? Is that a bad thing?
If the state you live in is like, I don't want people smoking weed, then you shouldn't smoke weed.
Or just
Then
not
you-
live in that state. I guess.
Or yes, you should not live in that state. You should get the fuck out of there because those people don't.
Who here
live
isn't high right now?
I'm not high. I'm very drunk. I'm very drunk.
Well,
Not
I was
high.
pretty high when I got here. But.
Yeah. I do
Oh, I
drugs.
whiskey.
I do drugs. I like drugs. I'm into drugs.
But you think Wisconsin has
fun
a
fact. Apparently, Obama actually raided more marijuana facilities than Bush.
True. Well, I mean, there was more marijuana facilities under Obama than there was under Bush. There was just, it exploded under him. So that's I feel like that's kind of tainted.
Mhm.
But it is true. Like if
But Trump has also been like, well, within the last
like
what,
2 days.
2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been like, fuck you, people who want to smoke recreational marijuana.
But that's only because they will be losing out on the revenue they would gain. It's an approach.
Socialist is bringing money into the situation. I don't.
Okay.
Taxes versus the money they're stealing from people. When like, okay, so where civil asset forfeiture is like they pull you over, you possibly have a couple grand in your trunk, or even a few $100s in your pocket, or whatever. You've got money in your car.
This is not any of us.
Because you're
talking about.
transporting
we're all
it
pretty
to another state that
No,
doesn't
I mean-
agree with. Yeah, okay.
You don't have to be traveling out of state. Okay, so you get
It
pulled
goes
over.
from county to county, dude. In
Yeah.
Colorado, different counties have since it was legalized in 2012, different certain counties
So you
have
can
been and
pull
cities
over-
have been like, no, it's not.
You get pulled over, you've got $500 in your pocket, and I assume as an officer that your $500 came from a drug transaction, even though you don't have any
You
drugs
can take
in your
it.
car. I take your
Yeah.
money, and it just goes to the state, and you have like no way of getting it back. I mean, I guess there's some court process where you might be able to get your money back, but billions of dollars a year cops are taking from citizens without any proof of a crime.
And Mark is teasing me because I'm a socialist and I'm bringing up money and revenue and what like. And that's a common thing that I hear sometimes. There's like, oh, why would you, if you're socialist, how dare you even use a smartphone or spend money at all? Okay. I live in America. I have to pay rent and I have to use money. Like it's a thing until we actually overthrow.
Because I'm your friend.
I know
Yeah.
that.
He doesn't
until
have
we
any
actually
friends in his couch he can crash on like Karl Marx did.
Or Bitcoin actually starts printing actual nuggets of currency.
I'm
They could come up with a virtual reality coin that like is presentable, and then depending on how much the Bitcoin is worth, the virtual reality hologram kind of could be like, it could be a different amount of coins.
I'm investing in Dogecoin, which is the money that's based on the Doge meme.
Fun
But-
anecdote
me-
about our current Attorney General.
Jeffrey
is
Beauregard Sessions III.
indeed the same.
Is he? No, you're shut.
You have to say the
Shut
whole thing
fuck
every
up.
time.
That is his
Shut
full.
the
That
fuck-
is his real actual
Jefferson
plantation ass name.
Bogart? Beauregard.
Jeffrey
Jefferson.
Jefferson.
Like
yeah.
Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson
Beauregard
Beauregard Sessions III. And that's how he will be referred to henceforth.
So don't Beauregard that marijuana law, my
Whoa!
friend.
He once said of the Klan that he thought they were okay until he found out some of them smoked marijuana.
Yeah, allegedly. He allegedly said that. It was never proven that he said that, but I have read that too, and it's very funny. He is in the 80s.
That's like two wrongs make an awful.
Hey,
He-
let's
he
talk
would-
about abortion.
Abortion is healthcare, and it should be.
Oh,
It should-
come on,
everyone
man,
should
you're
have it.
killing people.
Everyone
You're
should
killing
have it for free.
people.
Abortion is healthcare, and it's a right, and everyone should have it for free. But anyway,
Also,
War on drugs.
Also, we're comedians, and we laugh at horrible shit. So
but I'm the only socialist,
shut
so
the
I have to.
fucking
I have to.
pussy.
I have to
Don't
drag it left.
fucking, yeah, don't fucking.
Why my pussy?
You're pandering, fucking.
Pandering to who? To Tucker?
And
Turn the camera around. So
I
we can
know
see
I'm
this
a-
one guy.
I know. No.
All right, the war on drugs.
It's
What's
fucked
the
up.
solution?
You should-
What's the solution? Is there a solution?
There's
Should we
not.
just legalize everything?
No, you shouldn't,
No.
because if you legalize everything, you create a situation where you can buy acid in Shopko across the street from the middle school. You shouldn't do that. That's fucked up. Middle
but the-
schoolers shouldn't walk across the street and buy acid from a fucking Shopko. That's fucked up. You shouldn't be able to do that.
I don't think drug legalization would directly lead to acid being at shop. And like acid, like actual acid.
Sure, cocaine.
Okay,
fucking
I mean, that
tobacco,
actually used to be the
fucking
situation.
caffeine.
Yeah, that actually did exist. Like, okay, for instance, I do not do cocaine, but for the full
me
legalization. Well, no, I don't do it at all.
It's okay.
But possibly for the full legalization of cocaine, because it's like if somebody wanted to find that, I'm sure it wouldn't take them too long if they had enough money in their pocket. Like, I mean, they how many shitty bars did you have to go to before you could find cocaine?
The thing is like, there are functioning meth heads. There's someone who
Oh, yeah.
takes meth
Oh, yeah.
who's like totally fine with taking meth. That's fucked up.
For a little while, at least.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
no, for the rest of their life. Like, they're
Yeah.
super good at taking meth.
Or
There's
maybe-
someone out
maybe-
there who can fucking take coke for the rest of their life, and it was like,
Yes.
that dude takes coke? Holy
There
fuck!
are people like that. There are people who can function on coke
Yeah.
and on meth. And you know those people are who those people are? Upper class white businessmen. Those are people.
No, there's fucking black people who can do it. There's Mexicans.
Yeah, there probably are.
Racist motherfucker.
You know, there probably are some brown people who can function on coke. But what I'm saying is,
Brown people.
people of color, non-white people. And what I'm saying is, the war on drugs is just throwing people in. And you have seen in the U.S. and the global.
You know what I think the war on drugs is? It's a war
We're about
on
to hear.
It's a war on education. It's a war on people. There are certain people who can take marijuana. There are certain people who can take cocaine. There are certain people who can take alcohol who got lose their shit. There are certain people who can fucking take anything and not lose their lives and be completely fine. So it's your issue of using the government to regulate those people and fucking.
It's not even just regulating those people. It's making money off of just
all those
just
people.
if you find a 12-year-old black kid with a joint, he's in jail for 10 years, and you're making money off of him for 10 years.
And then
That's
probably
fucked
for the
up.
rest
That's
of his
fucked
life.
up. That's fucked up.
That is
You
fucked
should
up.
have that more
And
than
when you
joy.
say dude, no.
I guess
no.
depending if it's Florida.
Maybe today, maybe in 2017
Yeah.
in Madison. In 2017 in Madison, Wisconsin.
In 1950 in Alabama,
and
yeah,
those kids like that got caught with
In
a joint of
1950
weed
in Alabama, people who didn't like black people killed them.
got killed. Yeah.
They killed
We're
the
talking
fuck
about
out of those people.
South
We're
is
talking
fucked
about
up.
What?
Okay, we're all
No, the
fucked
world.
Hold
The
on, hold on,
world is
hold
fucked
on.
up.
you were saying that. Okay, the war on drugs is just putting people in jail into the prison industrial complex for profit. Anyone that has even touched cocaine or marijuana or any illicit drug is you're just in the system and you're automatic revenue. And when you say broad across the board legalization wouldn't work, like legalizing all drugs, it would be weird at first. It would be fucked up and it would be weird at first.
And we don't have to.
But the problem is abuse, is substance abuse, and if we could get treatment programs for people that abuse it.
The problem is.
Let's hear what the problem is.
The problem is someone who is susceptible to an environment where
Oh, you mean like
they don't
you
have
mean like
access. They don't
like-
have access to those drugs. The problem is that people who are susceptible to an environment where they don't have access to those drugs, who then go and manipulate and destroy other people so that they can acquire those drugs. That's the problem, and you should give those people
access to those drugs so they don't manipulate and destroy those other people's lives so that they can get access to them.
Right now, when the
Alright,
access
so-
when the access of those drugs is having to go to some weird alley or go to some weird fucked up place,
That's fucked up too.
Okay,
that's
so-
fucked up. But when
too.
it's like, if you could just have
This is the Anthony and Mark hour.
So in closing,
Well, it is,
there's-
but
Sorry,
the
sorry.
subject is drugs, so
Yeah, so in
everyone
closing,
over here is like,
in closing,
you're the expert. Shut up.
Not at all. Not at all.
Should
We're
then-
stupid. We're dumb. We're both of us. He's dumber than I am.
Impressive.
I love it's how the drunk guy is the one that's advocating for all this. This is fantastic.
He's just holding forth. No, go on the. Bernie Sanders is.
Bernie
You
Sanders
don't
would
drink
have won.
alcohol.
Barbie
You don't even
Sanders.
drink alcohol and you can't speak English.
Barbie Sanders is gonna
I
go
am
to
the only-
Ken go
Shut
to
the
the mall with Ken. And
We agree more than we disagree.
so then, should there? Last question: should there be facilities where someone can go
Yes.
and do any drug they want?
Yes, if they're at a point where they can't control their lives. Yes, absolutely. Canada does that. Canada has places where you can go do heroin because you're at a point where you can Canada Dry. Canada Dry, Canada, this is Canada whiskey, this is Canada
No, but I mean,
soda.
should there be a facility like, for
Go
instance, if somebody
Canucks.
wants to go take a hallucinogenic? Should there be a facility?
Absolutely,
Where
absolutely.
they can go and try
If
it.
you're at a point
A
where you
drug
think you
safe
should
space?
do that,
A
you
drug
should
safe
do that.
space.
And you should face the reality of what you're doing. You should go to a point where you're like, I take acid and it has a horrible trip. I have fucking awful experience. And
No,
you
I mean, but
gain
like, for the
that.
first
you
time.
gain,
Like somebody could go and try acid or try whatever drug. Should there be facilities for? I mean, should
Yes.
there be some
Yes.
sort of legalization of
Yes.
drugs?
absolutely. Yes.
I'm with the drunken slob on this one.
Yes. You should be able to take drugs.
Because
In a
It's
safe
demonstrably
place.
more effective than.
the war on drugs, what it boils down to is prosecuting and marginalizing people that have an addiction to drugs. And addiction is a medical and health care problem.
Absolutely.
It is
Absolutely.
not a social like problem. Like the reason someone turns to meth or coke or whatever it is not because they like I just want to see what coke is like.
You can have a
No.
physical addiction to
Well, probably
to
for
coke.
some of them.
You
it
can.
is.
For some
Yeah,
of them maybe it is. But imagine
But not,
the
like,
first time I did coke was in New York City at my sister's apartment. But what if it had been in like if it had been in like a government controlled or like a socially controlled environment where I just tried it and was like, well, this is weird and I don't like it. Because that's what I discovered in New York is that it's weird and I don't like it. It just makes me talk a lot
Coke
and
is
I don't
weird.
like it.
I also want to say
It's
Coke
weird
is
and I don't
weird.
like it.
Coke
The
is
Anthony
weird.
Syracuse
Coke is
story.
weird.
Wait.
It's like if you drank
wait.
8 cups of coffee and
They have Coke in New York City?
They have Coke
They
everywhere.
do have
dude.
Coke in New York City.
There's Coke in Colombia. Dude.
You can get.
Fucking.
We bought 4 Locos at like 3 a.m. It's New York rules. But what I'm saying is that the war on drugs, like, I guess if you were someone that was like no one here
Here's
is
the thing.
pro war on drugs.
No,
right? Like,
no
one
no.
here thinks
There
like
should be an
let's
understanding
let's
of
end
drugs.
drugs. People are going to
End
want to
drugs.
people are going to want to find a way to get fucked up and to escape themselves no matter what. So let's let them do that. But if I think a lot of drug abuse comes from economically hard hit areas. And if you give those people more
Because
of an
you don't have
economic
anything
chance,
else. You don't have nothing. You have
it's
nothing
true.
else.
Yeah.
You're
And if you
under
give those
fucking-
people
you have
$15 an hour,
You have PTSD. You've seen your best friend shot. You've seen You've seen people who you know killed. You have PTSD. You have nothing else other than fucking heroin or cocaine or fucking anything else you
Peyote.
can get a hold of. Peyote. Anything. you can
peyote
get a
is
hold of.
covered. Peyote is covered under the because it's a religious thing for the certain tribes. Certain tribes, and we've seen that with certain tribes using peyote in certain states that have legalized marijuana. Like, federal governments are willing to be like, you know what, if you guys can sort of control this, and I'll tell you, living in Colorado, when it first happened, opponents of it were like, you know, the federal government, you know, why even try? People like my dad, who's a hardline Republican, were like, you know what, it's federally illegal. As soon as we legalize it, they're just going to come in and shut it down. But that didn't happen. They just let it happen.
For now.
And there was a couple times, I'll tell you, when I still lived there, there was this one dispensary that was notorious for having cartel connections. And they were... Obama, thanks Obama. It was at Alameda and Colfax.
It doesn't matter where exactly
It doesn't
it was.
matter. It does not matter where it was.
Next to the 7-Eleven.
But this one place had documented known cartel connections. And one morning, the DEA came in at like 7 a.m. And like, this was like in like, I think it was in like a January or February. It was like a winter morning, 7 a.m. They broke the windows, threw like a bunch of military cars came out. And they were throwing weed out in the streets, loading it up, breaking the windows. Like, they just.
It's a trap.
I mean, but it was like a less than a year after the legalization had happened, and it was basically the federal government coming in, being like, you know what? If you're not going to do this according to our rules, we're going to come in and flex. And this was. I'm not going to say it happened all the time. But it wasn't rare. There would be times when the federal government would come in and say, you know what, if you're not going to do it by our rules, we're going to shut you down. Like, they broke the windows. It was like it was an intimidation thing.
I don't mean to cut you off, but you are way more conservative than you realize.
He is telling a story about a time a state legalized something that was still a federal crime and acting like it's weird that the federal government wasn't okay with that.
But it was just on this rare time. It was like one of 3 or 4 times where this happened. Like, if you really think that marijuana was that big of a deal to the federal government, the second it was legalized by the state, they would have come in and shut it down.
All right,
Okay?
all right. Now in closing.
So your complaint is they should have, is that the federal government was too inconsistent?
No, my complaint, if I have any complaint, it's that
You sound like you have a complaint.
I don't really have a complaint.
Then why did you tell that 5-minute story?
It's not so much a complaint as it is just an example of the federal government and by extension capitalism just showing its muscles when you don't play by its rules, it will just come in and fuck things up. But for the most part, they have let marijuana be legal in these other states. Like, they don't care about it. Except in these one times, because the only reason they came in and shut down that thing is because they were doing drug business across borders. This was a cartel linked place, and the government was like, you know what? This revenue that's happening here isn't 100% going to the federal government, so we're shutting it down. And that would be my only complaint.
So you've identified the tyranny of capitalism is that it only enforced the law slightly, rather than on occasions, rather than all the time.
It's
Yes.
that is it.
Do you realize how conservative he is? He doesn't know. He has no
might
idea.
have a libertarian streak somewhere
He
inside of
does.
him.
He doesn't realize
Which
it.
I think most socialists do. They just don't know it
They
yet.
don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
All
God.
right. He was
I'm
coming
getting
out in
closing.
favor of the government being against marijuana all the time, forever.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Is at the core problem is that you're trying to put a situation on. Okay. You're trying to say, hey, every situation has this outcome. It's not true. There are certain situations where you're like, oh, okay, well, this data point and this data point is like these things, but it equals this completely opposite thing than the thing that we have come to conclusion of. Like, the thing is like humanity is inequatable. We can't come to a conclusion based on a certain ideology. So like we need to come to a conclusion based on this, this, and this instead of this. Like instead of one thing, instead of saying this thing, instead of saying one thing is the thing that fixes everything, we need to be like this, this, and this. We need to be like, oh, there's more than one outcome.
So what
to
you're
us,
Mark Roth coming out in favor of there being more than one thing.
Yeah.
Mark Roth coming out in favor of socialism.
No.
That is
No.
letting the workers
I want-
and the local communities
I want-
decide through direct democracy their own
I want.
means.
All right, I want to close on,
Oh, we'll close it,
on
we'll
a
close it.
funnier note of well, I want to let you can use 2 words, but in 1 word or 2 words or even 3 words. I'll start with Mark. Well, actually, let him compose himself since he's the drunkest of us all. We'll start with David. Describe Donald Trump in less than a sentence.
I'd rather not. Is it her turn now?
I guess so.
Is it-
I got 3
did you use
words.
the whole sentence?
At least 3 words.
At least 3 words?
Or as many words, no, 1 word, 2 words, 1 word to a sentence.
Oh, can we go with Cinnamon Hitler? Sure. There we go. It's Cinnamon Hitler.
I would go with authoritarian, faux populist billionaire. Faux populist being hyphenated.
Less
Oh.
how many words?
Oh, 1 word to a sentence.
Not Hitler.
Bum, 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 bum.
German word.